Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Abstraction Cup round of 64. We are back with the penultimate match of the weekend. It is going to be our 17th seed, the going up against our 48th seed, Unit and Aero no eat us, and hopefully they don't get eaten. As this is quite a bit of a seed disparity going into this one, but honestly, in round of 64, anything can happen. I don't think we've seen too many surprising things. We've seen a couple tiebreakers so far this weekend, but outside of that, I mean, never count out the lower seeds. Qualifiers are a much different story than what we're about to get into, and when you really do start to get into the nitty-gritty, it just takes one bad performance to really throw things out the window. So hopefully for both teams, they are ready to put their best foot forward. Hopefully both players are here. We have seen some pretty interesting situations where you need to be able to sub out your player. Anybody that's been tuned into the tournament so far knows that there is a limit to this format. It is 2v2 1v1s, so we'll be seeing both players on both teams making appearances at different times. There is a limit to how many maps you can play in a row before you need to sub out, so it does throw a little bit of a spanner into the works for maybe picks, bans, and the protects as to who takes priority with regards to pick comfort versus getting rid of stuff that may or may not suit both, or maybe the weaker of the two players. I mean, stylistic differences, of course. You want to try and be as well-rounded as possible, so looks like the teams are rolling for this one to go. Also, forgot to introduce myself. Hello, everybody. My name is Sparky, and I'll be doing a bit of a solo job here in the commentary booth today as we round out the final match for Sunday here. And it looks like 4Blitz wins the roll, so our blue side is going to be determining how they're about to go about their business. Looks like they're gonna opt to protect first. They're gonna protect Rice 5. So wanting to stick to the straight and narrow here, something pretty short, pretty conventional overall, as opposed to some of the other maps in the Rice pool. Meanwhile, I'm going to wait for the protect from the to come through here. Taking a bit of time to deliberate. This does give us a bit of information as well as to where the potential bans are going to be, given the Rice protect from Unit and Aero. Maybe wanting to get rid of an LN chart, that, or maybe one of the hybrids. It'll be interesting to see how it develops moving forward. So two Rice protects rather coming through here. Rice 3 going to be the protect from the. So opting for something a little bit techier as we wait for the ban to come through here. There are plenty of good options to knock out. Can opt for Rice 6, so double Rice protect and the Rice 6 being removed, so maybe just stylistically not vibing with the chart overall, maybe wanting to pinch some of the options to keep the LN and hybrid pool open. And lo and behold, two Rice protects, two Rice bans, so Rice 2 going to be removed as well, so maybe both teams fancying their chances on the lower half of the pool and saving their protects, potentially keeping them in the back pocket for later on here. We'll just have to wait and see. But with all of that out of the way, it will be Unit and Aero no eat us up to pick first. See how they want to get this match underway. Thankfully, with this being the first round officially of the tournament, nothing of dire consequence here. kind of playing with house money if you are the lower seed. Try and take your best swing at your higher seeded opponent. See if you can knock them down into that loser's bracket early. But thankfully, no eliminations this weekend. Those will start next weekend. And looks like they're going to start with Rice 1. So the only Rice map that didn't get a bunch of attention outside of Rice 4. Very, very interesting overall. And now the only thing left to decide is who are the two players going to be up against each other. Looks like it's going to be New Zero and Nubbo for their respective sides. The Look Have Fun's come out, and we're going to get into this first map of this best of 9. First team to 5 points. We'll be moving on to the round of 32 in the winner's bracket. So getting this underway. This is a very flowy, dumpy type of a chart to get things underway. Both players off to very strong starts, basically matching each other in accuracy through the first 350 combo here. 99.9s for both of them. Very high perch to start off with, and it is inside of 20 points going either way as we get into this first key eye section, crossing through the first quarter of the chart. Neither side giving an inch. Nubbo finding a couple of perfects here through this interlude, dropping down below the 99.7 mark, maybe a 200, transitioning out of that section. A couple of awkward flams to deal with, going to give New Zero a bit of an advantage to work with, holding steady at about 2,000 points as we continue into the second quarter of the chart. And now we see more of the same as the players cross 1,000 combo. Both players holding on to their FCs very importantly. While it might not teeter on the edge of a miss, a singular miss given one way or the other could blow this entire map wide open. With half the map still left to go, we'll have room for recovery, but with the way these players are playing, you imagine the road to recovery would be pretty much precedented on a mistake being traded over. And so far, neither player looks to be wanting to make that first mistake, but New Zero holding on to the cleaner run so far, about 0.1% ahead of their opponent on Nubbo, but Nubbo finds the first drop as the first couple of scattered LNs begin to rain down, just enough to throw them off. And now New Zero has some wiggle room to play with now. 7,000 points to the good with a third of the map left to go, and still holding on to that 99.9 accuracy. Gonna start running away with this ever so slightly as Nubbo tries to get back up to that 400 combo cap. Gonna be able to before too long, but the damage may have already been done here. As I mentioned earlier, singular mistakes not reciprocated do a massive amounts of damage, especially when your opponent is playing as clean as New Zero is so far. An eighth of the map still left to go here. Nubbo doing very well to recover the accuracy, still about a 10th behind as they were before the miss, but with that miss in the back pocket, New Zero really doesn't have much to worry about here. As we continue to this outro. And there's another miss. Wow, double miss. Both players losing their FCs. Well, New Zero losing theirs finally, but Nubbo finding a second one. An opportunity maybe presenting themselves, not going to get capitalized on. Does shrink the lead to about 5,000 points. One may wonder what would have happened, but New Zero finds yet another miss, but there's not enough time. 2,500 points going to be the margin of victory for New Zero, and take the first break point in this match to make it 1-0 to start things off here. Oh boy, a bit of heart and mouth moments here for Team The. One would think after that first miss from Nubbo that it might have been done and dusted there, but it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and New Zero having just enough in the tank to see themselves through by virtue of that accuracy diff. At least through the first 90% of the chart. Those 3 misses gonna bring them down below Nubo's accuracy, gonna make it feel like Nubo might have had it in the bag, but I mean, credit to them. They've stayed in that fight, made the road to recovery. If they had just managed to avoid that second miss, we might have been seeing a different story here, but not the way it's gonna shake out here. Now Team The gonna have an opportunity for their first pick in this match, first pick in this tournament. And with that breakpoint in the back pocket, they could potentially try exploring some different options here, maybe get a little risky with it. We've seen all the attention paid to these Rice charts, paying no mind to the hybrids and the LNs, and sure enough, LN1 going to be the pick for them to start things off here. So it's LN being a little bit more coordination focused in comparison to the other two in the pool. And we're gonna see Pulsing check in for this one, so the count does reset for Team The. Meanwhile, no movement on the side of Unit and Aero, no Edis. Nubo going to be staying in for this one. Brings their count to 2 for considerations of those mandatory swaps. So getting this one underway. Very strong starts from both players. No early drops to speak of, just slightly more comfortable in terms of opening accuracy going the way of Pulsing, as Nubo finds a couple of early releases to drop them down into that 99.5 range. Pulsing holding steady, 99.8 for them, eking out this 2,000 point lead just based on that accuracy alone as we cross the first quarter of the map. That being said, it does give Nubo room to build their accuracy. They're gonna start taking chunks out of this lead. The onus does fall on Pulsing to maintain this level of performance, lest they capitulate this lead. But it only seems to be growing here, doubling now to about 5,000 points as we cross into the halfway point of the map. The back half is now upon us, and both players holding on to their FCs for the moment here. Just navigating a perpetual minefield of different LN structures to make sure that they're squeezing out every judgment that they can. And right now, Nubo on the back foot in terms of that accuracy. About 2.5 tenths behind still. Pulsing growing that advantage to 6,500 points as we continue on to this next key eye section. Quarter of the map left to go. Will this be a repeat of the last chart? A couple of massive trades in the last map opened the door for the blue team to try and get this one back, but as things stand, both players maintaining this level of perfection. Not much Nubo can do in that situation, as Pulsing still holding on to this immaculate performance. Last couple of notes begin to rain down, and it looks like they will be able to capitalize on that opening breakpoint, make it 2-0 to start things off. A 993k from Pulsing, a near V1SS for them to make it 2-0 and really start putting the pressure on the blue team here. All right, so now Unit and Aero back up to pick once again. Opening pick didn't work out in their favor, but they made it a heck of a fight, all things considered. I imagine they're not going to let that make them shy away from these Rice picks. They do still have their Protect in the back pocket of Rice 5 if they want to go into that. But no, they're going to go opt for a Hybrid 1. So changing up the strategy here. Go for something a little bit different. Keep the Protect in the back pocket, the break in emergency. Potentially here, but going for the first hybrid of this match. Using a little bit of it all here to start things off. A bit more technically oriented. Gonna hear the words Flams and Grace Notes out the wazoo for this one. A little bit longer as well, giving themselves an extra minute and a half to work with potentially. We're gonna see 4 Blitz come in, 4 unit and aero. Gonna reset the count for them. Pulsing looks like they're gonna stay in here. Looks like the players are ready. We're gonna get into this third map of this best of 9 team. The currently ahead 2-0. Looking to try and make it a third. Unit and Arrow looking to try and notch their first point on the board here. See if they can get their tournament run started. Put the broom away early as well. Very straightforward blend of these jack patterns, or different chord patterns going into the LN transitions. Very smooth, very steady as we begin to build up. And the opening trades at 300s right now. Both players crossing that 400 combo cap. Currently advantage. 4 Blitz, 200%. Gonna start swinging wildly as we get further into the map. This is one of the longer ones in the pool. And I imagine we're going to be in deadlock unless a player finds a miss. And 4 Blitz going to be the first one to blink, having the stronger start of the 2 players. Now losing the FC, going to give Pulsing a 5,000 point cushion to work with. That was a pretty dirty miss as well. 0.2% lost for them. But thankfully with this smattering of notes raining down, going to be able to cross that 400 combo cap relatively quickly. Going to stem the bleeding, limit it to only 7,000 points. As they begin to make their recovery run. But Pulsing now with the advantage once again. Gonna stretch it to about 8,000 points. Neither player dropping on the transition into these LN Grace Notes. But you start to see the 200s begin to dot the landscape from 4 Blitz as they try to hang on to each individual release. And taking a little bit of damage for it, losing about another 0.1% with half the map left to go. It's now 0.4% the advantage Pulsing has, as well as a miss in the back pocket as 4 Blitz finds another drop on the transition. As the players now take a chance to catch their breath, see the scores. 4 Blitz going to see that they have a bit of work to do. 12,000 points to margin here as Pulsing still holding on to the FC here. And Pulsing's going to have the knowledge now that 4 Blitz has missed. Knows they have a bit of a cushion to work with. How big? They might not know, but they can maybe assume that they're in the driver's seat for the moment. Third of the map left to go as we begin to build back up to our outro here. Still just a very strong performance out of Pulsing for the moment. 4 Blitz doing everything in their power to try and take chips out of this lead that they've given over, but with 16,000 points with an 8th of the map left to go, ball's not really in their court for the moment. as we make our way through this outro. It's these transitional moments with these LNs that get so daunting to read through. The tendencies to overhaul. We just see a plethora of 300s from the side of 4Blitz. And another miss as well. Gonna be the end of the road for that run. 24,000 points, the margin of victory, pulsing a near V1SS, the Black Flag Performance FC from them. Gonna make it a second breakpoint in the back pocket and make it 3-0 to start this match off. A valiant effort from Unit and Aero, no Edis, but looks like the hybrids aren't going to be the answer for this one. Mercifully, they do have another pick in this match. Wouldn't be surprised if they went into their protect potentially. Once it gets back to their turn, it's just a matter of who stays in to contest this one. All right, this next pick. And with the way the LN chart went for Team though, I wouldn't be surprised if they just stuck with it. That being said, they did protect Rice 3, so at this point, it could potentially just be pick your poison. What's the map you vibe to the most? What can you FC in your sleep? Becomes the question here. Because so far, everything's worked out in their favor. This lower half of the map pool has treated them very well. The only time that they actually did trade was on the Rice picks, so no real reason to go back to those. But no, it's going to be the protect here coming through for Team The. Maybe just wanting to secure a potential match point situation to start things off here. Gonna hear some Processor Hero. 1.2x rate, a little bit faster than one might expect. And now we see the two players that started this match off, NewZero and Nubbo, checking in for their respective teams. A rematch on the right side of the pool. And the closest result we've had so far in this match, only about 2,000 points separating these two players on Rice 1 to open things for this match. So we'll just have to wait and see what Nubbo can do. It's going to be very nip-tuck through this introduction. That could potentially be a repeat of Rice 1, where a singular mistake just blows this whole map wide open. Very fast mini-jacks on the outer columns. Inner columns as well in the transitional moments. Not catching out either player so far, but Nubbo holding the higher accuracy for the moment, 600%. Gonna give them the slenderest of leads, but for right now, these guys just need anything to hang on to give him a chance of getting a point in this match. NewZero isn't going to make it easy though. Only half of a tenth behind, 600 points, and every single 300 seems to jostle that leaderboard ever so slightly to the left. But I think both players are fully in their element right now. This is light work for both of them so far. We're already a third of the way through the map, about 2 minutes left for them to contest on, and NewZero has started to shrink this deficit ever so slightly, 300% inside of 500 points. No real room for error for Nubbo. Both players holding on to their FCs as well. This is halfway point being crossed, and very little to separate both players so far. The margin for error so slim. It feels like for the blue team so far. A third of the map left to go. A small break to catch your breath before you dive right back on into it. Still 300%. Both FCs still left on the board. It is still inside of 1,000 points between both players. But now we're reaching that point where it feels like for every 100th that NewZero can claw back, it is so tantalizingly close. 200%. Now 300 points between both players. As we cross into the last quarter of the map, every single judgment matters now as NewZero begins to make the run here. It's a charge. It is inside of 100%. They are hot on the heels of Nubbo as we start to see the scoreboard begin to flicker back and forth. It is just pure 320s raining down here. They are tied in accuracy. Maybe a handful of 300s separating into the two performers. One of these two is going to be sorely disappointed at the results screen. It is still 200 points between the two players. It is way too close to call. It's going to come down to the wire. Who is going to hold their nerve? Who is going to hold on to the higher accuracy? The last burst coming through here. Last couple of chords. It's going to be Nubbo. 98 points separating the two of them. It is 5 300s between the two of them as Nubbo scrapes it by the skin of their teeth to put away the brooms. It is now 3-1. Oh, deep breath. What a ride. That's just how close these rice maps can get. Kudos to the for picking it, but I mean, with the way Rice 1 went, closest margin of victory. I mean, to be fair, neither player put a foot wrong. I think both of them could be pretty happy about that performance. You just got out-act. It happens. A 200 would have thrown that whole equation into disarray. And in all of that, very crucially, it is a breakpoint going back the way of Unit and Aero no Idas. And they're not going to opt for their Protect here. They're going to go for Rice 4. So the Protect stays in the back pocket. They have, in fact, earned themselves another pick in this match, regardless of how this one goes, at least. Actually, no, that's not true. That is straight up not true. This is a breakpoint, and the capitalizes on it. This match is over, so... Looks like they're gonna continue duking it out, Nubbo and NewZero. Score currently 1-1 between them overall. As both of their second maps, they can both play one more in a row before they're forced to sub out. This map, crucially, much shorter than the previous picks, so any little mistake, and I'm talking about 200s being a mistake in this context, could cause a wild swing. But so far, both these players above that 9.9 mark. NewZero holding the accuracy advantage for the moment, but I mean, I'm doing a disservice calling this an advantage. 300% once again. This is literally a handful of 300 separating the two players once again. Oh, we saw in the last map, it was 5. This is maybe like 3. Halfway through the map, the trade's still going back and forth, and we're starting to see the tug of war happen once again. It is 100% NewZero holding on to the slenderest of advantages, but this is within catching range. All Nubbo has to do is basically V2SS, potentially, to put Destiny into their own hands. 350 points with a quarter of the map left to go. A calm section. Who put these LNs in my rice? It's still 200%. Every single judgment matters once again. But the shoe is on the other foot. This time around, New Zero has the advantage. They do have the tiniest bit of wiggle room to work with. These trills not catching out either player as the last notes begin to rain down. Watch the releases. And New Zero takes it. And a much calmer ending. 659 points to make it a match point situation. And they get that break point back. 997k. What a performance from both of them. Another situation where one player is just left sorely disappointed at that result because they probably felt that was immaculate. So now it is a worst case scenario for Unit and Aero no Edos. It's match point for Team The, and it is their pick, and they waste no time. They're going to go for LN2 here to potentially try and close this out. Now we see the rematch once again. Pulsing and 4Blitz going to be going up against each other on yet another LN chart. Pulsing winning the earlier one. 4Blitz looking to try and keep their team's run alive. Weight of the world resting on their shoulders for right now. Pretty short LN chart in the grand scheme of things as well. Alright, a very frenetic start from both sides. Looks like a bit of damage to their accuracy in comparison to what we have seen in earlier charts. This is the lowest starting accuracy both these players have had. 99.7s for both of them. Plenty of room to build from here as things begin to settle down, but with how fast-paced this chart is in comparison to LN1, mercifully, you don't have to coordinate as many of the releases. They are on that 1/4 grid for you to be able to time a little bit more accurately. And right now, Pulsing holding on a little bit tighter. 4Blitz finding the first miss. Slider break for them. Going to drop them down to the low 99% mark. 0.5%. 10,000 points of margin for Pulsing to work with as you get into this TI section. 2/3 of the map left to go here. As we continue on, Pulsing being one of those players where you go a minute, they take a mile, at least in the context of this match. They have managed to extend these leads to extreme proportions. 5 digits now, 13,000 points for them to work with, a third of the map left to go here. 4Blitz, to their credit, able to stem the bleeding pretty quickly, but now 4/10 behind. Gonna need a couple of misses from Pulsing to try to recoup some of this score loss. But Pulsing's played a near perfect game so far, just a couple of 200s to their name. Don't look to be giving this one up anytime soon. With an eighth of the map left to go, the lead has only grown 17,000 points as they begin to grow their accuracy above that 99.8 mark. And it looks like as the clock begins to strike 12, it will be Team The looking to put a nice little bow on proceedings here. Gonna knock Unit and Aero no Edos down to that loser's bracket, close this match out by a scoreline of 5-1, and punch their ticket into winners round of 32. Very well played by both teams. There were some very much heart and mouth moments. as that match progressed, a couple of things go a little bit different, and we could have a whole different story on our hands. The scoreline doesn't do this one any justice, it feels like, but there has to be a winner. And it looks like it will be Pulsing and New Zero. Congratulations to them. Thankfully for Unit and Aero Noitos, not the end of the line. Just gonna need to make that run in the lower bracket. Very excited to see what they're capable of down there as this tournament progresses. But that will do it for us here. Hope you guys have enjoyed. There's only one match left for the round of 64 weekend, and that will be happening tomorrow. Let's just say tomorrow, 21 hours from now. We're gonna have Tacos de Pipash, boom, going up against Team Yippee to round out this round of 64 weekend. And somewhere in between that, we'll have the showcase time, a little bit tentative. Keep an eye on the Discord so you don't miss it, because boy, have they got some stuff cooked up for y'all. But until then, I'll catch you guys later. Take care, y'all.